What if the person you walked past without a second glance turned out to be the only one who could save your entire company? Welcome back to Twilight Tales, the place where powerful stories reveal truth, inspire change, and remind us never to judge too quickly. And if you're visiting for the very first time, pause for a moment, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a story that might just change your perspective. Today's story begins with a crisis, a state-of-the-art robotics lab, top engineers from the best schools, and a multi-million-dollar deal hanging by a thread. Everything that could go wrong, did go wrong. 20 engineers scrambled to fix the problem. None of them could. Then came Jamal. Not in a suit. Not with a degree. Just a black delivery driver in a navy blue hoodie and steel-toed boots, holding a clipboard and a box of printer parts. He wasn't supposed to speak up. People like him didn't get invited into rooms filled with brilliance, let alone asked to solve engineering failures. But when pressure mounted and seconds ticked down, Jamal saw something no one else did. And what happened next left an entire tech firm speechless. This isn't just a story about a malfunctioning machine. This is a story about assumptions. About the silent intelligence we often overlook. About how many people carry genius in their hands and humility in their hearts. It's about the difference between degrees and wisdom, between hierarchy and humanity, and the moment when a man who was barely seen became impossible to ignore. We're about to walk with Jamal through humiliation, hesitation, and finally, history. From backdoor to boardroom, from being dismissed to being depended on, this journey is anything but ordinary. And by the end of it, you'll ask yourself one question. How many Jamals have we ignored today? Stick around because this story isn't just unbelievable, it's unforgettable. Jamal Brown had a routine. Every morning at 5 a.m., he laced up his worn work boots, adjusted the sleeves of his delivery uniform, and kissed his mother on the cheek before heading out into the cold dawn air. For most people in the city, he was invisible. He moved through alleyways and loading docks, delivering supplies, parts, and sometimes forgotten lunch orders. But what most people didn't know was that Jamal had once dreamed of wearing a very different uniform, a lab coat. Back in high school, Jamal was known as the quiet tech kid. He built his own computer from scratch at age 13. He'd even been offered a partial scholarship to a technical institute. But life got in the way. His father passed unexpectedly, his mother fell ill, and Jamal made a choice: family first. College could wait. It never came. So he worked, day after day, building a quiet life of service, all while burying his brilliance beneath layers of humility and responsibility. He read engineering manuals on his lunch breaks. He watched MIT lectures on his secondhand phone while waiting in freight elevators. And every now and then, when a warehouse tech had a broken scanner or a factory machine jammed, Jamal would fix it. No thanks. No recognition. Just a nod sometimes. He never expected more. But today was different. He was scheduled to deliver a shipment of specialized carbon fiber to a high-tech robotics facility, Cortrex Dynamics, a company known for pushing the limits of AI and mechanical innovation. Jamal had been there once before, but today the atmosphere was off the moment he arrived. Security looked tense. Engineers paced frantically by the loading docks. There was shouting from an open bay door, and a team in white lab coats huddled around a large piece of equipment, clearly malfunctioning. "Park that over there," someone barked without even looking at him. Jamal quietly moved the delivery van, grabbed his clipboard, and rolled the cart forward. But as he got closer to the chaos, he noticed something that made him stop cold. The robotic arm, touted as the company's next-generation breakthrough, was jittering unnaturally. Sparks flickered at the joint, and the entire unit hissed as pressure valves failed to release. The lead engineer was sweating through his shirt, barking orders, but nothing was working. Jamal watched closely. He wasn't trying to interfere. But his mind raced as he pieced it together. He recognized the model. Not from work, but from one of the engineering forums he'd quietly followed online. There had been an issue with the software that misinterpreted calibration feedback. Something the manufacturer had denied publicly but that community users had flagged over a year ago. No one here seemed to know. Jamal took a breath. He wasn't supposed to speak. He was just the delivery guy. But he couldn't ignore it. He approached slowly, respectfully, and cleared his throat. "Excuse me? I think I might know what's wrong." The group turned and stared at him like he'd spoken another language. One engineer actually scoffed. "Do you even know what that is?" he sneered. Jamal looked down, tightened his grip on the cart handle, and nodded. "Yeah, that's the Ares X arm. Your software's trying to re-zero the joint angles every loop cycle. It's interpreting thermal drift as motion error." Silence. The lead engineer blinked. One of the interns frowned and whispered to his colleague, "How does he know that?" Another scoffed louder. "Right. And I suppose you've got a degree from Stanford hiding in that back pocket?" Jamal felt the sting but didn't flinch. "No, sir. Just seen the issue before on a project forum. If you recalibrate using the static override instead of dynamic response mode, it should stabilize." They stared. One guy actually laughed. But then a quiet voice behind the crowd, one that hadn't spoken yet, said, "Let him try." The voice belonged to Dr. Elena Navarro, Cortrex's Chief Innovation Officer. She had been silently observing from the second-floor railing until Jamal's words caught her attention. The moment he mentioned static override, her interest was piqued, because only someone with deep knowledge of their system or sheer intuition would have known that. "Let him try," she repeated, descending the stairs. The engineers parted reluctantly as Jamal stepped forward. One of them handed him a tablet with the control interface, his movements hesitant, clearly still not convinced. Jamal didn't take offense. He was used to being underestimated. He examined the interface quickly, his fingers moving with surprising confidence for someone supposedly unfamiliar. The menu was cluttered and full of proprietary layers, but Jamal had seen enough open-source versions to know where the override functions would likely be nested. He tapped through with precision. "Here," he pointed, "this subroutine keeps trying to autocorrect even in manual mode. Disable this flag temporarily, and that one. Then initiate a soft reboot of the actuator controller." The lead engineer crossed his arms skeptically, but Navarro nodded to proceed. Jamal input the changes and stepped back. Everyone held their breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the robotic arm, previously jerking and sparking, settled into a perfectly fluid movement. The hissing stopped. The feedback loop normalized. One of the engineers gasped audibly as the arm lifted a sample module and placed it gently on the conveyor. "Holy, it worked," someone whispered. "Check the pressure stats," another yelled. "It's back within nominal range." Navarro studied Jamal quietly. Her eyes narrowed, not in suspicion but in curiosity. "What's your name?" "Jamal." "Jamal Brown, ma'am." She smiled. "Jamal Brown. Who do you work for?" "SkySwift Deliveries. I just brought the carbon fiber." That made the lead engineer flush red with embarrassment. The guy who had laughed at Jamal earlier suddenly found something very interesting on the floor to stare at. Navarro didn't laugh. She just looked thoughtful. "You've never worked in robotics?" "No, ma'am." "But you understood our diagnostic structure?" "I read a lot." It wasn't arrogance, just the truth. Jamal wasn't boasting. He knew what he knew because he had to. Knowledge was free even if opportunity wasn't. Navarro turned to her staff. "Document everything he did. And someone send a report to maintenance. We've wasted 6 hours on this today." One of the junior engineers whispered to another, "This guy's sharper than half our team." Another replied, "How the hell does a delivery guy know all this?" Jamal didn't answer. He was already backing away, unsure what to do now. He'd solved the problem. His job was done. Time to disappear like always. But Navarro wasn't finished. "Jamal," she said, "do you have a resume?" He hesitated. "No. I never applied anywhere. Never finished college." "Do you have anything to show your skills? A project, a portfolio?" Jamal nodded slowly. "I've built a couple machines at home. Designed a basic robotic gripper using recycled parts. I could send pictures." She smiled again. "Send them to me. Personally." Before he could respond, one of the interns walked up sheepishly, offering a bottle of water. "That was amazing. Honestly." Jamal nodded politely. "Thanks." As he turned to leave, whispers followed him. "Who was that guy?" "Delivery genius. Elena's definitely going to hire him." But Jamal wasn't thinking about a job. He was thinking about his mother. And how proud she would be if she knew what just happened. He walked back to his van with a calm confidence he hadn't felt in years. Something had changed. And this was only the beginning. News of Jamal's unexpected triumph spread like wildfire across the Cortrex building. By lunchtime, whispers had turned into full-blown conversations in break rooms, elevators, and even among upper management. People were amazed and some weren't pleased. Especially not Ken Hastings, the head of systems integration. A proud Stanford graduate with a towering resume, Ken had spent the entire morning watching his team fail while a delivery driver succeeded in minutes. That bruised ego couldn't be ignored. In his sleek office, Ken was ranting to 2 fellow department heads. "So we're just letting random outsiders solve critical malfunctions now? What's next? Amazon drivers writing our firmware. One of the other execs tried to calm him. Come on, Ken. The kid knew his stuff. Elena saw something in him. That's her division. Ken wasn't having it. He embarrassed us. Made our people look like fools. I've got engineers scared they're going to be replaced by someone who read a few online PDFs. Meanwhile, downstairs in the warehouse, Jamal was finishing his last delivery stop. He tried to stay low-key after what happened, but it wasn't working. Workers were giving him high fives. Some called him Doc Brown. One forklift operator shouted, "If they don't give you a job, we riot." Jamal laughed it off, but deep down he felt the pressure rising. He didn't ask for any of this. He just wanted to help, not start a war. Later that afternoon, an email pinged into his inbox, from Cortrex's HR department. We'd like to formally invite you to speak with our innovation and engineering leadership about future opportunities at Cortrex Labs. Jamal's heart skipped. He reread the message 3 times before quietly whispering, "Is this real?" But not everyone was cheering. Ken Hastings had already begun a silent campaign. He called a private meeting with select board members, hinting at concerns over security breaches and protocol violations. He phrased his arguments carefully. "Don't get me wrong," Ken said, "I admire raw talent. But letting unvetted outsiders access proprietary systems? That opens us to serious liability." One board member frowned. "Wasn't the system malfunctioning because your team missed a subroutine conflict?" Ken stiffened. "We were close. He just got lucky." But it was too late to contain the ripple effect. Someone had uploaded a short clip of Jamal working at the terminal to the company's internal social platform. Within hours it leaked online. The caption read, "Delivery driver fixes Cortrex system after 20 engineers failed. Who is he?" The video hit 30,000 views overnight. People were stunned. Not just by what Jamal had done, but by how calm and precise he had been under pressure. Tech forums picked up the story. Industry professionals debated whether Cortrex should offer him a fast-track role. And yet there were skeptics too. Comments poured in. "This is staged. No delivery guy just walks in and rewrites diagnostics. He probably had inside info." Affirmative action in action. Jamal saw some of the hate and tried to ignore it. But it stung. He remembered his mother's voice. "Let them talk. You keep doing the work, baby." Back at Cortrex, Elena Navarro wasn't wasting time. She called Jamal for an informal lunch meeting the next day. When he arrived, she was already waiting with a sleek binder open in front of her. "Jamal, I want to know everything. Start from the beginning. How did you learn to do what you do?" He told her everything. The library visits. The late nights watching MIT lectures online. The machines he built in his garage. The competitions he was too broke to enter but studied like he had. She listened silently, impressed by both his humility and hunger. Then she smiled and slid a document across the table. "We're offering you a paid mentorship and development track here at Cortrex. Starting next week." Jamal blinked. Ken Hastings, watching from a distance, clenched his jaw. This wasn't over. A week after accepting Cortrex's mentorship offer, Jamal walked through the glass doors, this time not as a delivery driver but as a rising star. Dressed in a crisp polo and slacks with a badge that read, "Engineering Intern, Special Placement," he looked every bit the part. But beneath his cool exterior was a storm of nerves. The mentorship wasn't just ceremonial. Cortrex was serious. He was assigned a small office near the R&D wing and partnered with senior systems engineer Priya Desai. She was one of the few who had been rooting for him quietly from the beginning. "You're not here to fetch coffee," she said with a warm smile on day one. "We're going to test your brain. You good with that?" "More than good," Jamal replied. And he was. Every challenge Priya handed him, he cracked. Subroutines, predictive algorithms, legacy patch integrations. Jamal didn't just complete the tasks, he improved on them. Quietly. Precisely. One day Priya gave him a complex AI data routing model. Something that had taken the department 2 weeks to build. "Optimize this if you can," she said playfully. Jamal returned the next day with the system using 30% less memory and 40% faster performance. "Where did you learn this?" Priya asked, stunned. Jamal shrugged. "I studied a lot. I never had the tools, but I had the time." Word started to spread inside Cortrex. Not just about the delivery guy who saved the system, but about the young genius whose brain worked like a machine and heart beat like a craftsman. Meanwhile, outside of work, Jamal's life began to change. His mother, who had once worked double shifts as a nurse aide, now saw her son's name pop up on tech blogs and business panels. One night at dinner, she handed him something wrapped in velvet. "What's this?" Jamal asked. She smiled. It was your father's. He never made it into tech like he dreamed, but he believed one day his son would. Inside was a simple silver ring engraved with gears and circuits. His father's design. His blueprint. Jamal slipped it on his finger, left hand, middle finger. It felt like closure. And beginning. But not everyone at Courtrex celebrated his rise. Ken Hastings watched with a cold gaze as Jamal's ideas were discussed in high-level meetings. His influence was spreading. Clients wanted to meet the prodigy. Even the CEO had made time to personally shake his hand. To Ken, that ring on Jamal's finger wasn't a symbol of legacy. It was a threat. So he made a move. Late one night, Ken dug through Jamal's profile. He pulled old delivery logs, security footage, and scoured his public internet activity. Then he found what he thought was his golden ticket, an anonymous tech forum post that matched Jamal's known code style, under the handle Blackbox99. In the thread, Jamal had once criticized corporate hoarding of innovation. Most breakthroughs never reach the public. Corporations gatekeep brilliance behind NDAs and politics. Ken forwarded the post to the board with a subject line: potential conflict of interest and risk to IP confidentiality. The storm came the next morning. Jamal was called into HR. Two compliance officers waited with stiff expressions. Jamal, we need to ask about your online activity. He sat still, ring catching the light. Sure. What about it? Ken had expected Jamal to fold. Instead, Jamal leaned forward. That post wasn't a leak. It was an opinion. One I stand by. But if you want to question my loyalty, ask Elena Navarro. She has every piece of code I've written for this company. HR looked uneasy. Elena herself entered the room just then. We already reviewed it, she said coolly. There's no violation. In fact, Ken, the board wants to know why you're spending company time targeting employees instead of fixing the recurring server failures in your division. Ken went silent. Jamal rose and walked out, with the backing of the board, and his ring shining brighter than ever. 2 weeks later, Courtrex was preparing to unveil a revolutionary prototype. The real reason so many sleepless nights had passed in the R&D wing. The product? An advanced AI-integrated logistics system that could cut delivery costs by 45%, with adaptive routing and predictive cargo balancing. It had the power to change how global supply chains operated. And Jamal had written one of its key predictive modules. It wasn't supposed to be public knowledge, but insiders knew. And the pressure on the project was suffocating. Investors from Japan, Germany, and the UAE were flying in for the reveal. Fortune Tech magazine had already sent a reporter. News anchors were camped outside Courtrex's headquarters. Everyone had something riding on this. The night before the demo, a critical failure occurred. The system began misrouting inputs, delivering wildly incorrect results. The original protocol began overwriting itself mid-cycle. Chaos. Emergency engineers were pulled in. The board was alerted. It looked like the launch would have to be cancelled. In the chaos, one voice cut through. Let me see the logs, Jamal said. Some scoffed. Kid, you've done enough. This is $1 million system. But Elena Navarro silenced them. Let him. Jamal sat silently in front of 4 massive screens in the dimly lit lab. As people murmured behind him, he began to type, fast. He wasn't just fixing. He was redesigning. In real time. He found the loop recursion buried 3 levels deep in a legacy code snippet. Something no one had noticed because it wasn't supposed to be there. Jamal rewrote the handler protocol, rerouted the fail-safes, and created an adaptive memory buffer to prevent future overload. Then he pressed enter. The entire system blinked. Then recalibrated. Green lights everywhere. Perfect balance. It was done. The room erupted, but Jamal didn't smile. He turned to the lead architect and said, that recursion error wasn't accidental. Someone injected that code. The room fell silent. Security was alerted. An internal audit confirmed it, sabotage. And the culprit was none other than Ken Hastings. He had tried to tank the system to make Jamal look incompetent, knowing that if the prototype failed, the board would never trust someone like Jamal again. The next morning, the press gathered in a grand conference hall where the CEO of Courtrex stepped on stage. He spoke of innovation, risk, and legacy. Then he paused. This next product isn't just our future. It's proof that brilliance can come from the most unexpected places. A year ago, the young man I'm about to introduce was delivering packages to this building. Today, he delivers a future none of us imagined. Jamal was invited on stage. He stepped up, modestly dressed, wearing the same silver ring. Reporters leaned forward. Investors whispered. The board clapped. Then the CEO did something remarkable. He turned to Jamal, extended his hand and said, "The floor is yours, Mr. Carter." Jamal took the mic. "I grew up being told smart kids like me don't belong in places like this. That I should stay in my lane. But genius doesn't care about zip codes. Or uniforms. Or who shakes your hand." He held up his left hand, the ring glinting under the stage lights. "My father designed this ring before he passed. He told me one day I'd wear it in a place where people saw me, not just my job title." Applause thundered. Flashbulbs popped. After the speech, multiple tech firms made overtures. Venture capitalists offered him blank checks. But Jamal didn't flinch. He walked back to his mother, waiting quietly in the front row. "We did it," he whispered. She looked at the ring and nodded. He'd be proud. By the time the sun set that evening, Jamal Carter's name was trending across every major platform. From delivery driver to genius engineer. Young black innovator saves $2 billion project in 24 hours. Meet the 22-year-old who outsmarted 20 engineers. Journalists flooded Cortrex's headquarters, but Jamal had already slipped out. Fame wasn't what he sought. He wanted something deeper, change. The following week, Fortune Tech released a front-page article titled, "The Ring, the Code, and the Kid Who Changed Everything." It chronicled Jamal's life, the infamous boardroom meeting, and the silver ring that had quietly become a symbol of silent brilliance. Suddenly, the world paid attention not just to what Jamal did, but what he represented. Schools in low-income neighborhoods began highlighting his story. STEM programs reported spikes in enrollment from young black students who, for the first time, saw someone like them do the impossible. Meanwhile, Elena Navarro, the VP who had believed in Jamal from day one, announced a new initiative within Cortrex, Project Ring Code, a scholarship and mentorship program named in honor of the ring Jamal always wore. The project would provide underrepresented youth access to elite coding academies, hands-on training, and internships at Cortrex. And the first name on the board of advisors? Jamal Carter. It was unheard of. A 22-year-old former delivery driver, now advising one of the biggest innovation pipelines in Silicon Valley. During a televised interview with CNN Business, Jamal sat across from the anchor, calm and collected. He didn't boast. He didn't name-drop. "I didn't fix that system because I wanted headlines," he said. "I fixed it because I knew I could. That's all some of us have, our belief in what we can do." Then the anchor asked the question many had wondered, "What's the story behind the ring?" Jamal smiled and held it up for the camera. A simple silver band with a faint engraving on the inside. "My father was a welder. He used to say, 'Build things that last.' When he got sick, he made this ring for me. Said it was my reminder that no matter where I go, I come from strength." That moment went viral. The next day, jewelers began receiving requests for replicas of the Carter ring. But Jamal refused to license it. "It's not a brand," he told a journalist. "It's a memory." Still, the ring became a symbol, appearing on murals, t-shirts, and posters across youth centers in cities like Detroit, Atlanta, and Houston. Meanwhile, Ken Hastings, the former engineer who had tried to sabotage Jamal, faced criminal charges and industry blacklisting. Some said it was justice. Others called it karma. But Jamal never mentioned him again. "If I focused on those who tried to stop me, I'd forget the people who lifted me," he said. He poured his energy into mentoring. Weekly sessions with kids from underserved schools. Free workshops on coding fundamentals. And monthly blog posts titled The Ring Files, where he told real stories of struggle, success, and software, with a dose of heart. By the end of the year, Cortrex's new system, built on Jamal's corrected algorithms, had revolutionized warehouse logistics worldwide. Their stock tripled. Competitors scrambled to catch up. And at every conference, when someone mentioned the success, one name always came up. Jamal Carter, the delivery driver who delivered the future. But to him, none of it compared to one quiet afternoon when he visited his father's grave. He knelt beside the headstone, placed a fresh set of blueprints on the grass and whispered, "It worked, Dad. Your ring worked." He smiled, stood up, and walked away, into the kind of future he had built with brilliance, belief, and a little silver band no one could ignore anymore. 6 months after the incident that changed everything, Jamal Carter's life was unrecognizable. Yet to those who knew him best, he hadn't changed at all. He still wore his same scuffed sneakers. Still took the bus sometimes, just to stay grounded. And he still answered emails from young coders with big dreams and broken laptops. But what had changed was the world around him. Project Ring Code, the initiative born from Jamal's story, was no longer just a company-backed program. It had become a national movement. With the backing of courtrecs, donations from billionaires who once dismissed him, and support from schools and tech incubators, Project Ring Code expanded into 23 cities across the U.S. Every Saturday, kids, some no older than 10, gathered in community centers, libraries, and church basements. They weren't just learning how to code, they were learning how to think differently, fearlessly. At one Detroit workshop, a girl named Kiana raised her hand and asked, "Will I ever be as smart as Jamal Carter?" The volunteer instructor smiled. "You already are. You just have to believe it like he did." That belief was contagious. Meanwhile, in Silicon Valley, Courtrex hosted its first annual Innovation for Everyone Summit. The keynote speaker? Jamal Carter. He walked on stage not in a suit, but in a black hoodie that read, "Genius comes in all colors." The crowd, CEOs, engineers, students, rose in applause. Jamal took the mic and paused, eyes scanning the crowd. Then he spoke with that same soft power that once silenced a boardroom of billionaires. "I used to think the ring my father gave me was a symbol of where I came from. But I've learned, it's a reminder of what we can build when we stop doubting each other. When we stop measuring potential by suits, accents, or resumes." He held the ring up for a moment. Silent, simple, powerful. "Every system I write, every student I mentor, every room I walk into, I carry this with me. And now I pass it on to you." The audience erupted in standing ovation. Some cried. Others just stood frozen, witnessing not just a speech but a shift. Later that night, Jamal received a call from the White House. The president wanted to meet him. Not just for a photo op, but to consult on a new initiative focused on STEM education in underserved communities. He politely accepted. But before flying to D.C., he stopped by the small delivery depot where it all began. It was quieter now. Some of the guys still worked there. One of them, Tyrone, who had covered for Jamal on the day he was called in, spotted him. "Yo, look who finally got time for us." Jamal laughed. They embraced. "I never forgot this place," he said. "This is where I learned timing, balance, respect." "You learned all that delivering packages?" "No," Jamal smiled. "I learned it carrying people's expectations on my back. And I still do." He gifted the team a brand new fleet of electric vans and left a note in the break room, "Dreams deliver too." Across the country, stories popped up of kids wearing silver rings made from scrap aluminum or 3D printed plastic, symbols of hope, hustle, and hidden brilliance. A group of students from Southside Chicago even named their robotics team Team Ring. They didn't win first place that year, but when Jamal showed up to their school with a trophy engraved with their names, they said it was better than gold. Because now they believed in what was possible. Because now they saw that legacy wasn't about wealth, it was about impact. And Jamal? He just kept building. Building systems. Building minds. Building a legacy one silver spark at a time. And that, dear viewers, is the incredible journey of Jamal Carter, the delivery driver who rewrote not just a system, but the way an entire nation saw potential. What started as a routine stop on a frustrating afternoon turned into a moment that shook billion-dollar industries and inspired millions. One man. One ring. One undeniable talent that couldn't be boxed in by his uniform, his background, or the assumptions of others. Jamal didn't wait for permission to shine. He didn't need a fancy title, a polished resume, or even the benefit of the doubt. All he needed was an opportunity, and the courage to seize it when it finally appeared. And when that door opened, even if only for a second, he didn't just walk through it. He kicked it wide open so others could follow. So let me ask you this. How many Jamals are walking among us right now? How many brilliant minds are being overlooked because of how they look, where they're from, or what job they hold? This story isn't just a tale of justice or redemption. It's a reminder to see value in people before the world tells you to. Because genius wears overalls. It delivers packages. It mops floors. It waits tables. And sometimes, it carries a silver ring passed down from a father who believed, even when the world didn't. If this story moved you, if it made you feel anything, then don't let it stop here. Backhand index pointing right, like this video to show you believe in unseen talent. Backhand index pointing right, share it with someone who's ever been underestimated. Backhand index pointing right, comment below and tell us, what's your silver ring? Backhand index pointing right, and most of all, subscribe to Twilight Tales, where we shine a light on the powerful stories that deserve to be heard. Until next time, keep your eyes open, keep your mind sharp, and never forget, brilliance doesn't ask for permission,